So we'll walk you through the microservices journey that we were going through in Foxtel when it comes to Conductor. Conductor is an orchestration platform that we have been using since a couple of years now, but we had a couple of challenges, and most of those challenges were addressed by Orkes. So we'll be just going through what challenges we faced and what we were using before that, and what is the future that we are going to go with. Okay, so then in agenda, so initially I'll be give a bit of a brief about Foxtel and what we are doing, and we'll go through what we have been using before using the Netflix Conductor. So then Abhijit will walk through the experience in Netflix Conductor and the challenges that we faced, and then finally I'll briefly go through with the what are the evaluation steps that we have done and what features and things that we are actually using in Orkes Conductor. So Foxtel, we are an entertainment company. So we do have a couple of platforms like Chaos Sports and Binge for Movies, and we do have separate news channels called Flash, and those are mainly live streaming, stream-based platforms. And apart from that, we do have Foxtel. Foxtel is a pay TV channel, and there are many other products coming in that line. So then we are kind of doing a bit of new things like aggregated platforms. So there are a couple of things that we anticipate to come in future. And primarily our platforms, when it comes to orchestration and the Orkes area, what we mainly doing is we are doing processing of videos and its metadata in a particular central platform to be catered for all the applications. So that is a bit of a background, but we need Orkes as a platform. And bit of about technology, we are primarily using depending on microservices architecture, and most of our deployments are on Kubernetes. And yeah, so that is mainly our infrastructure. So I'll quickly hand over to Abhijit to go give a bit of idea about pre-Netflix and the Netflix experience that we were using before Orkes. Yeah, over to you, Abhijit.
Yep. Yeah, Tisara, thank you. Hi, I'm Abhijit. I'm a principal engineer here at Foxtel. I work on the video technologies area. Like Tisara mentioned, we have quite a number of products that we support. And yes, so Foxtel as an organization has had a very natural progression of how things grow, right? So we started as a as a single product, and then we kept on adding more and more products, and now we have a lot of them. So naturally we started with probably monoliths, and went our way into microservices, and so that's a natural progression. So we do support multiple processes for the company. We solve a lot of problems. One of the main problems is video processing, as well as metadata management of these videos, right? So as we added more and more products, we had to build separate pipelines to deal with these the videos and their metadata, and the things started getting more and more complicated. So what we did was we before I head on to the challenges we faced, we'll probably talk a bit about what we did to solve it in the first place. So we went on and built an in-house kind of a task engine, a task execution engine, which will execute a series of tasks based on the current state of the event. And if there are a set number of steps that we have to do to process a video, so we execute them one after the other. But there was nothing in the middle to work out things for this process. So if someone wants to look at this video coming in, this new movie coming in, where is it? What part of the flow is it currently sitting in? Is it getting transcoded? Is it getting packaged? There was no visibility because this was all event-driven thingy, and which proved to be quite difficult because our operation guys, they wanted to know what's happening. So um, troubleshooting was another problem we had, because if something goes wrong somewhere, again the same problem. We needed an engineer to actually troubleshoot, try to find out where exactly what failed, right? And it was, it's like a vicious circle, right? The more and more systems you add, the more and more microservices you add, troubleshooting and maintaining becomes more and more expensive to do, and as well as technically challenging for ops guys. So that is one of the stages where we realized maybe choreography. Probably, Tisara, if I can ask you to move to the next page. Yeah, so what we were doing was traditional choreography, right? Which was, we realized maybe it's not the best way to deal with things. Each have their own pros and cons, but in our case, we needed something central, something which gives us a whole picture of what's happening, something using which we can control things, um, and it has a UI as well and stuff like that. So that's where we decided to try out a different methodology, I would say. So we the task based engine which we built, actually it still works. There's quite a few use cases which it still currently solves in our organization. It's not like it's a throwaway or whatever. But yeah, the main pipelines that we have, video processing, metadata processing, delivering content to our playback servers for linear channels. So all of this stuff, we have adopted the orchestration ideology over choreography. And yeah, that is when we picked up Netflix Conductor, right? We've had multiple workflows, multiple parts of the company as well use Netflix Conductor to solve many problems. And there are quite few benefits that we saw when we moved to Conductor. Like I mentioned, all the cons I mentioned when I was talking about choreography were like solved when we moved to Conductor, right? Because it had a nice UI. um, um, and it had all those retry features and all of that, right? So Tisara, if I can request you to move to the next page. Yeah, so it gave us one of the main things it gave us was operational convenience, like how it is mentioned over there, right? So you can see what's going on. The other thing is that the ideology of orchestration, right? So your services, they don't need to be they can be as dumb as they can, which then meant they can be reused in any multiple other workflows. So it kind of helped us with code reuse, make microservices more and more dumb, so that they can be plugged into multiple places, and all the stuff like that. And even reusing parts of the functionality of the worker logic itself into multiple workflows as well was another thing which we noticed. So it helped us in quite a few ways. And also, when I said operational, we have ops team maintaining these failed workflows and stuff, so they can easily go and click restart and try to see what's happening. It's all in the UI, it's in the logs, we can set what went wrong. So it helped us a lot initially, in the initial days. And one thing I would, yeah, definitely want to mention is separation of workflow execution, the business logic which orchestrates, versus our core backend, platform services, because we need the services to be service not to be very fat. They need to be very lean. All the logic was then moved out of the services and was put in on the conductor or the workflow orchestration layer, which helped us make our systems clean as well. So Tisarak, again, if I can request you to go to the next thing. Yeah. So yes, of course, with every system comes problems. So one of the main things the issue we had with Conductor was we were maintaining Conductor ourselves, in the sense we did fork off a very old version of Conductor, but we had to we faced some problems with locking and transaction how it handles transaction, for which some of our senior engineers actually had to do some slight tweaks, which also meant we were out of sync with what Conductor was going at. So we were actually never, and we with the number of products we were working on, we never really found the time to keep up with the latest versions of Conductor, right? So because of that, we were lagging behind. We were still running a very old version of Conductor, which had a lot of other issues as well. And with any orchestration platform, um, uh, though it centralizes everything, but if the orchestrator itself dies, then then it pretty much kills the system, right? Because whereas in an event driven thingy, if one of the consumers die, it doesn't really kill the whole thing. So that was one of the main problems as well, because we were maintaining our own Conductor instances. um, um, they were not very reliable. We did not have um, enough we did not pay enough attention to keep them upgraded, keep looking at their health and blah and blah, though we had Kubernetes and all of that. But yeah, so we lagged slightly in that. And yeah, community bug fixes, we were not able to pull them, so any smaller bugs, we still had to live with them. And one another main thing was the lack of auth, right? Like Conductor doesn't really give authentication by out of the box. So anyone can just go in Conductor and restart a workflow, which I mean, there's pros of having a UI, and then there are cons of having a UI, right? So it's more like that. Um, and scheduling was another problem, because we in some of our cases we have we want to execute certain workflows on a particular schedule. Conductor out of the box doesn't support that, so we had to use some other tool. We used Airflow for that, but yeah, some other tool which manages the schedule and keeps triggering these workflows time and now, right? So um yeah, so we as we grew, we ended up solving certain problems which took us to a certain level. We actually were able to manage multiple products with our own instances of Conductor, but at that point newer problems started to appear, right? So that is when we started looking for alternate options. And yeah, I'll hand it over back to Thisara, who can take us through the options.
Sorry. So to solve those challenges we actually had, so we have evaluated few other options, mainly Netflix Conductor V3. We got to know that V3 has more bug fixes and more. It totally has a, a completely new UI and improved UI, and there are a lot of things that have been corrected compared to the previous version. And the other thing that we evaluated is AWS step functions. Step functions is AWS based implementation, but the main challenge with that is we already get used to Conductor. It is kind of baked into our environment, developers, and all our implementations. But when we look at step function, it is mainly a Lambda based implementation. So we have to think of a totally different architectural implementation style and the serverless implementation for that. So that's the main reason we didn't go with step functions. And since we already known about Netflix Conductor V3, so we did a bit of extensive evaluation on V3 compared to the version that we were using. I would like to point out a few things that we have noticed in Conductor V3. As I mentioned earlier, so a lot of bug fixes were fixed, but the major problem was it was way ahead compared to the Conductor version that we were maintaining. So then we were not able to merge the code at all. It was not practical because, as I remember, we had about 400 merge conflicts, so it is not possible. And the other thing is, other option we were thinking is having a totally different V3 deployment pipeline. So then the other problem raised related to that is that we wanted to make sure all the internal fixes that we have done is in V3. So it will be a bit of a high effort consuming QA and dev when you're looking at from that angle, because there's no one literally taking care of V3 from external perspective, because it's mainly community maintained version. So then we found out while we are doing that evaluation, there's a party called Orkes really provides a managed service. So we have evaluated most of their practices and the fixes that they have done, their features and most of the things. I'd like to highlight few things that we actually gained from going into Orkes. Mainly, we don't want to maintain a pipeline for the build and deployment of Conductor. So that is one thing that we had to maintain. So we had a couple of Conductor instances. Mainly, as Abhijit mentioned, we had some concurrency and transaction locking issues. To reduce the load, we had to use multiple number of deployments. So it ends up creating multiple number of pipelines. So we had to maintain multiples. So then with Orkes, we don't need to maintain any pipeline because it's already managed by them. So they have two different versions, which is called something that they maintain. And the other thing is they come and deploy Orkes within one of our AWS space that we prefer to them. So we are using the second option, which is called the customer hosted version. So we have the Orkes deployment within our area and within our network space. So we give only access for maintenance and whenever we wanted to access our environment only. So that is one of the plus thing that we have gained. And the other thing is, since we do not want to do any bug fixes, so pipeline maintenance, our developers and the QA teams have more time to spend on business features. So that is one other gain. And from the cost saving perspective, we are still running both the platforms parallel. So once we switch to Orkes, we can shut down most of the old Conductor instances that we are maintaining. So it will cost more, it will save more cost on infrastructure perspective. So giving a bit of a environment, what environments we do use for dev and test, we use a preview environment. So which is the Orkes is having their own Docker image. And we do have one non-prod shared environment. So we are using a particular cluster type called standard cluster type that they have given to us. And on production environment, we do have two flavors of Orkes. One is the standard cluster type that I mentioned to you earlier, which we are using in non-prod. And the other thing is IO optimized cluster type. So it is the IO optimized one we are actually using for the synchronous load. Things like custom onboarding and sign up, where we cannot tolerate any delays of executing the workflows. But for the asynchronous workflows like metadata processing, video processing for a couple of minutes, we can actually tolerate on workflow delays. And few other features that we actually asked Orkes to have. One thing is the Conductor gateway. Because when looking at those clusters, those clusters are a bit large. So we wanted to have a particular way of splitting those clusters and sharing across multiple teams, because mainly considering cost and the resource sharing, because we don't want to run resources just without doing any consumption. So the main purpose of Conductor Gateway is to decouple the direct cluster access from microservices. That is one other aspect of the gateway as well. So once we request that feature from them, so they actually came up with a brilliant implementation. So this is one we should give a plus point for that. And the other thing is role-based access control. So before we did not have any role-based access control, as Abhijit mentioned, so anyone can go to the production and restart a workflows. It's a bit of dangerous. So with the role-based access control in Orkes, we are able to identify a group of workflows using a particular tag. So we can define different roles, and roles can be assigned to tags. So that's how we actually split the cluster with multiple number of workflow domains. And the other thing is they have inbuilt scheduler. actually used for a couple of occasions this, but in future we'll be using it for mainly extensively we'll be using it because we wanted to get rid of maintaining Airflow for scheduled workflows because it's no point of maintaining another language and just to trigger the workflows since we are having this feature within Orkes. And the other thing that we are hoping to use in future is a Kafka task type because we have a lot of Kafka consumers and the publishers within our uh, environment. So if the workflow task can publish and consume a particular message from Kafka, so then we don't need to have separate microservices deployed. So it will save effort from developers and especially from infrastructure perspective. It is one thing that we are hoping to use in future. Other thing that we should highlight is mainly the improved GUI. So user interface has been drastically improved. So it is one good thing that we actually noticed. And then we do have few suggested value additions. So these are actually they already in okay in development. Few UI improvements like in subtask drill downs and in scheduler couple of if you can have a particular option to execute a particular pre-task, so that will be something value addition for our business as well as I think as a focus it will be value addition for them as well. So this is something that we thought will be value added. And I'll hand over to Abhijit since from the development perspective, what experience and what feeling that they have with the new platform compared to the community maintained version that we have been using. Abhijit, what do you?
Yeah. No, I mean it has been a great step up for us because like the one of the things that you touched upon is improved GUI and the improvements in searching as well, because one of the problems we had was with the number of workflow executions, the search was getting impacted with the version of Conductor we were using. And so far I haven't really seen anything like that on Orkes. It's as fast as it was on the day one. So it's a big win for us because a lot of times we want to go and find out how a particular video got processed and what all parameters it used, and we want to also look up historical processing. Like let's say something happened 6 months ago, we still want to search and look it up. So that has improved a lot. Authentication, authorization, of course. And also one thing I want to highlight is all the task executions. They have they show, if we configure retries, they show every retry and what happened with that retry. So we can even view every retry's logs and stuff, which is pretty cool because most of the times first retry fails, second retry works, and we want to know what happened previously. So all that is clearly visible. So there are actually many things, but a couple of things that came to my mind. But one thing I would like to have is the scheduler, which is by itself is a great functionality. But if it can, do like if it has a feature to do some pre-checks, like let's say if a workflow needs to be triggered, let's say it has a precondition to be met. Currently, what we're having to do is we have the first task of the workflow to do the precondition. If the precondition fails or if the condition isn't met, right? So we have to do a straight line to end the workflow, which can be avoided if the scheduler itself can do some sort of a script execute. I will not say the word script, but some sort of a execution which will actually determine the precondition and only then trigger the workflow, right? So that way the workflow looks clean is one. Secondly, there won't be as many executions of the workflow, right? Because let's say the condition meets only once or twice a day, and if you are running this 10 times a day, then there will be 8 executions which will be which can be avoided, right? So yeah, that's one thing I can think of. But I'm sure because we just started using Orkes, I'm sure down the line we'll probably and request a few more. And the team has been very courteous about that, and they have been helping us fixing it straight away. So So yeah, so a big thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. I think we are parallel running both the platforms as I mentioned earlier. So then probably end of this year we'll be moving to completely into Orkes platform. So then we'll be extensively using those features. So far it is all good. So we are getting great support, and thank you for that. And yeah, so that's about it. Okay, thank you very much, and back to you, Viren.